It's on I-25 coming from El Dorado. There was a head-on. There's 3 cars, maybe 4 cars involved. Well, I know they're dead.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car right now! Let me see your hands! Walk to me! Where is he?
It all began on March 2nd, 2022, when Richard Musser, a resident of Vizcaya apartment homes in Santa Fe, found a white Chevy Malibu parked too close to his car. Inside the Malibu, he saw a woman locked in an intense verbal and physical struggle with a man. Before he could step forward to intervene or even grasp what was happening, the car suddenly sped away. There was no doubt in Richard's mind the woman in the car was being taken against her will. He immediately called 911.
There's a lady out in my parking lot here at the Vizcaya Apartments. She asked me to call the police. Somebody's in her car, won't get out. She says he has a knife held on her. She's now leaving. She's in a white Malibu.
A possible abduction was unfolding and the stakes were sky high. Officers were immediately dispatched to track down the white Malibu and bring the woman to safety. Just 8 minutes later, Officer Romero and Officer Robert Duran from the Santa Fe Police Department spotted the same white Chevy Malibu.
Female in a white Malibu.
We're currently traveling on the opposite lanes of St. Mike, swerving in and out of traffic. Ran red light, Old Pecos Trail.
Officers Romero and Duran hit the gas, activated their sirens and radioed for backup. But as soon as they tried to pull the car over, the driver responded with speed. The Malibu tore through traffic, dodging cars, blowing through red lights, and making erratic U-turns. The chase had begun, and it was about to take a twisted turn. As more officers joined the pursuit, the Malibu made a horrifying move, swerving onto Interstate 25 and going the wrong way. Now, it wasn't just the woman's life in danger. Every driver on that highway was at risk. The chase had escalated into a life-or-death race, and time was running out.
Now he's headed onto I-25, wrong direction. Speeds are at 87. Light traffic, speed still at 90.
Drivers screamed, slammed their brakes, and swerved desperately, barely avoiding a fatal impact. With each passing second, the situation grew more dire. Calls flooded 911, frantic voices reporting the same horrifying sight. An out-of-control vehicle barreling headfirst into innocent motorists.
Pull over before a white car almost hit me, and then 5 minutes later, he's on the opposite side.
The Malibu was now pushing over 80 miles per hour. Officer Romero pulled up parallel to the vehicle, trying to force the driver into stopping the car. Behind him, Officer Norris and Officer Duran closed in. Their strategy was risky but necessary. Box the suspect in, force a U-turn, and shut this chase down before anyone got seriously injured. The moment of opportunity was near, but speed came at a cost. With their field of vision shrinking and their focus locked on the fleeing Malibu, Norris and Duran struggled to spot the rapidly oncoming traffic. They had their lights flashing and sirens on to warn any vehicles in their path. Some drivers managed to pull over just in time, but not all were this lucky. And then, in the blink of an eye, disaster struck. The Malibu suddenly veered left, cutting across the road without warning. Officer Romero held his ground. Officer Norris instinctively swerved, barely escaping impact, but Officer Duran never had a chance. The fraction of a second he had to react wasn't enough. His police cruiser slammed head-on into a black GMC pickup truck. The sickening force of the crash sent shockwaves through the road.
It's on I-25 coming from El Dorado. There was a head-on.
The Malibu kept going, its reckless driver avoiding the pileup by sheer luck. But fate had run out of patience. The car clipped 2 more vehicles, throwing it off balance. And then, finally, the chase was over.
Are you okay? I mean, I know you were involved in the crash, but is there any sort of like entrapment or anything like that?
Yeah, 286 is entrapped in his vehicle right now.
286 is entrapped?
Yes.
Okay, are you out of your vehicle?
I just got out of my vehicle now.
Then the driver's side door burst open. A woman emerged, running as fast as she could. She was identified as 46-year-old Janine Jaramillo. Officer Romero's gaze was still locked on the stalled Malibu. Now that Janine was out, they could finally take down the man who had caused this catastrophic chase.
Where is he? Walk back to to me! Walk back to me now!
I got the female coming back to me right now. There's probably one not standing in the car.
Come back to me. Let me see your hands. Come back. Where is he?
He went that way.
What is he? Is he in the car?
No, he went that way.
Come here. Get down. Get down. Let me check you.
Okay.
Get in the car.
Okay.
Get in the car. Get in the car.
But before he could reassure her, she blurted out something that made his blood run cold.
Let me see. I need to check you. I need to check you for weapons.
Okay.
Where's he at? Who is it?
His name is Mark. He's my boyfriend.
Does he have any weapons?
Yes, he does.
What does he have?
He has a gun.
Where is he at?
He
ran?
Yes, he did.
Okay, stand by. So I have the victim right now in the back of my car. She's saying it's her boyfriend. Unknown in the name yet.
He's got 1080 with a gun, went into these bushes right here.
Okay, let's get some clarification on exactly where we're at, and we need to establish a perimeter on that, please.
Okay, what is his name?
His name is Mark.
Mark what?
Lopez.
Okay. Where, he ran off, or what?
Yes, he did.
Are you sure he's not in the vehicle?
I'm sure, sir.
You're positive?
I'm positive, sir. He hit me, and he ran.
Okay. We need to clear this vehicle as well. I don't know if there's anybody else in here.
The suspect, Mark Lopez, had vanished.
Who's gonna burn me?
Did he stab you at all? Did he hurt you at all?
I don't know.
Okay, what kind of gun does he have?
He had a knife to me, too.
He has a gun or no?
A gun and a knife.
Okay. What's his last name?
Lopez.
Lopez? What's his date of birth?
I'm not too sure because I haven't been going out with him very long.
Okay, hold on.
While Officer Romero took Jeannine's statement, a set of investigators rushed to check the white Chevy Malibu.
Let me see. He went this way or what?
I don't know, sir.
Somebody trying to
He hit me.
Okay, any units that are coming up, what I want you guys to do is start diverting I-25 bound, I-25 northbound traffic off of the highway.
When did he get out of the car? Were you driving?
No.
I know it's take a breath. We're trying to help you get information.
I was not driving. He got
He was driving?
He said that he was gonna kill me and light me on fire. There's gas in the car.
Mark Lopez?
Yes. Tell him be careful. There's gas in there.
Jeannine was trying to be as helpful as possible. But now, knowing that Jeannine was alive and well, nabbing the kidnapper was a priority. As they carefully approached the car, they found no one inside. Mark Lopez had escaped, unscathed, unseen, and still on the loose.
Okay, so the victim is saying that the suspect is a Mark Lopez, no date of birth. Apparently there's gas and fire in the car. I didn't see anybody exit besides her, so he may still be in the vehicle.
Okay, stay in the car, okay?
Okay.
Keep your head down. He has a gun.
But the nightmare was just beginning. As emergency services arrived and assessed the wreckage, a horrifying truth emerged. The devastating car crash had taken 2 lives away. The first victim was 43-year-old Officer Robert Duran, a dedicated officer and a father of 2. A heroic cop who had spent years protecting others, only to have his own life stolen in an instant to protect Jeannine. The second victim was 62-year-old Frank Lovato. He was a retired firefighter from Las Vegas. A man who had once run into burning buildings to save strangers was now gone because of one reckless pursuit. 2 men who had sworn to protect would never go home again, and the man responsible for it all was Mark Lopez. Officers shut down both sides of Interstate 25. More units were called in and the search for Mark began. Officers fanned out into the surrounding area, weapons drawn, combing through bushes, back roads, and alleyways. The police department sent out multiple warnings. Everyone in the area was advised to stay inside and keep their doors locked. Residents were urged to remain vigilant. A dangerous armed man was on foot somewhere nearby. Schools went on lockdown and local events were canceled. The pressure was on. They had to find Mark. Now.
We're still working on his involvement and the totality of the investigation. We do plan to release his information once we get everything locked down in his identity. She was transported to a local hospital, and she's still being investigated and interviewed by law enforcement.
With Janine now safe, detectives believed they finally had the upper hand. Being Mark's girlfriend, Janine would know him inside out. Getting their hands on Mark wouldn't take long. However, what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly predict, was a gut-wrenching twist that awaited them in the near future. Detectives broke multiple protocols, driving at dangerously high speeds, going the wrong direction on the interstate, and not terminating the pursuit even though it put multiple lives at risk.
Any officer involved in the pursuit at any time make a decision to terminate?
Yes.
Did any officer terminate?
No, which shows that we were equally on the same page. All of us felt the exact same way about that circumstance, and that there was no other alternative but to continue.
A heroic cop made the ultimate sacrifice while risking everything to save Janine. And the suspect, the kidnapper, was still on the loose. The investigators were desperately in search of answers, and so Janine was taken to the station for further questioning, where she spoke with Agent Wyatt Harwell of the New Mexico State Police. She claimed to know little about her alleged kidnapper, a man named Mark Lopez.
How long have you and Mark been dating?
Oh God. I've known him like 2 to maybe 4 months at all. That's why I don't even know what's going on. Like, I mean, this person I just kind of knew that turned into an evil person, and he was not like that.
Where is he from?
He said he was from Santa Fe. He told me he wanted to take me out here to stay with him for a little while.
During the last 2 to 4 months, has Mark celebrated a birthday that you know about?
I think, I'm trying to remember if he said, he's younger than me, because he doesn't look older than me at all, but I think he likes me about his age.
Despite supposedly being in a relationship with him, Janine could provide only vague and scattered details about his identity. She said Mark had 2 sons and recalled that on the day of the chase, he was wearing a red shirt, black jacket, and black pants. But when pressed for more details, she came up empty. Detectives wanted this information so they could know something about their suspect. They could then check their records to see if there was a Mark Lopez in the system with the same information. She couldn't even provide the detectives with a clear description of his facial features. In fact, Janine was so traumatized that she couldn't even recall details about her own family.
Your kids, how old were your kids?
Oh, my kids. My youngest one, he's 13. No, my youngest one, he just turned 11.
Now, where is he at?
He's with my daughter. And they're my 2 boys that are with him. Are with her. One just turned 14. And there's my little boy, my youngest one, turned 11.
And your daughter's 14?
Oh no, my daughter, she's 26 or 27.
So she's in charge.
Yeah.
Have you talked to her?
No.
Right. We'll make sure that happens. You all concerned over your son or daughter?
No.
Okay.
They're fine. Good. Yes, I'm very. My daughter is so good.
And then just the few kids?
Are with her, yeah. Or can I get the tissue?
Yeah.
As the interrogation continued, Janine hesitantly recounted how the ordeal began outside the home of Mike, one of Mark's friends, following an argument.
He woke me up like in this so terrible way. Pouring some gas on me. I smelled it, and then I felt like the cold. Wearing my clothes and everything. He told me he was gonna burn me.
Okay.
He said he was gonna set me on fire and I was gonna die. But he was gonna kill me.
Okay. He didn't, and I'm glad for that.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't understand I can't understand everything. Like, it's hard. It's hard.
When he would hit me in my head, he knocked me out because like I remember I saw like real weird dizziness and real strange my vision in the middle. It's all dark and I was out.
Well, where was this when they happened?
She was outside in one by his friend's house. It's
Mike's house. You know Mike's last name?
No, they just told me their first name.
The details, she insisted, were murky. Only fragments of memory remained.
You want to go home still, and he says you're not leaving. He begins striking you in your chest. Is that right?
Yeah.
And how was it? With the hand, with the weapon?
He punched me. He was punching me with his fist.
So it's a closed fist like this? Okay.
And I was trying to put my head down so he could stop hitting me. And I seen him that he had the knife in his hand and everything, but it was like closed. But I seen it.
So when you say closed, was it a folding knife? Yeah? And then the blade was closed.
Yeah.
But he was still holding it against your neck and your chest.
Yeah, and he was telling me that I'm not going to leave and he was going to kill me.
On top of that, Jeanine told the detectives that she had received multiple injuries, a cut on her upper lip and bruises on her head, chest, and neck.
He said, you're not leaving here. I'm going to kill you.
And how did that make you feel when you said that?
I was so scared. I was all, no. And I started crying and screaming. I was starting to scream, and then he was punching me so hard in my head, and I didn't know what was going on anymore.
Where at on your head?
I had
on the side there?
Yeah, everything was very blurry because I think that the doctor said that I must have got gas in my eye because they had to flush my eyes out.
Gasoline.
Yeah.
This was the exact moment the detectives realized that something was off. Jeanine's selective recall raised more questions than answers. It seemed as though Jeanine was deliberately avoiding questions about Mark. How could she be so close to Mark, yet know so little about him?
Do you remember going the wrong way on the highway?
No.
Do you remember getting out of the car?
I remember a little bit. Because like after that I could not see it. I was so scared to even open my eyes. I was scared.
It didn't take long for investigators to consider the possibility that she might not be telling them the whole truth. And as time went on, contradictions in her story began to surface.
Cannot be explained is you getting hit in the head so hard by a man that he knocks you out, and there's not a bruise, there's not a welt.
How do they know? How do you know there's no bruises on my head?
We're looking at you.
Once again, she redirected the conversation away from Mark and back to herself, focusing on her injuries. She pointed to her head injury as the reason for her confusion, claiming she had blacked out. By the time she regained consciousness, she said, the deadly car chase had already happened and her so-called attacker had fled into the trees. Detectives found themselves going in circles with Jeanine, unable to extract any critical details. Despite their growing doubts, they had no choice but to let her go. After all, she was considered a victim of an alleged kidnapping, at least for now. In the following days, Jeanine took her story to the local news, publicly thanking law enforcement for saving her life, even as one officer lost his own in the process. She played the part of the grateful survivor, but to investigators, something felt off.
I wanted to come home and he did not want to bring me, and it started a big old argument. And I had talked to I was yelling for help to this one man that lived in those apartments, and he did help me. He called the police.
Did he have that knife to you, or could you see that knife?
Yes, and he also had a gun. Fell to the ground, and I seen the police. I looked up, and there was the police, and I just ran for my life, and I was screaming, "Help me!" Like, you know, I'm crying, I'm hysterical, and I'm in shock.
Jeanine's version of events just didn't add up. Determined to uncover the truth, detectives took a step back, looked at all the facts they had gathered, and examined the evidence with fresh eyes. And what they found was deeply troubling. From the moment officers arrived at the scene, they never lost sight of the Chevy Malibu. At no point did they see a man exit the vehicle. The only person who emerged was Jeanine. Strangely, she appeared to exit from the driver's side, despite adamantly insisting to Agent Harwell that she had not been the driver. When asked how her ex-boyfriend had escaped, she could only offer vague explanations, claiming everything had been chaotic and she was too scared to remember. But the inconsistencies didn't stop there. After Jeanine was placed in the police cruiser, officers discovered the Malibu's keys in her pocket. If she hadn't been the driver, how had they ended up with her? Even more suspiciously, despite her claims of being assaulted, she showed no visible signs of the injuries she had described. Seeking answers, investigators quickly obtained a search warrant for the car. What they found raised even more doubts about Jeanine's story. The front passenger seat, where she claimed to have been during the chase, was cluttered with items, making it nearly impossible for someone to sit there, let alone crouch on the floor. More tellingly, only the driver's side airbag had deployed upon impact. The facts were becoming impossible to ignore. Forensic analysis revealed that the DNA found on the steering wheel matched Jeanine's, and fibers collected from the driver's seat matched the sweater she had been wearing that day. Strangely, despite her claim of being doused in gasoline as part of her abduction, her sweater showed no trace of the flammable liquid. The evidence was stacking up against her. The detectives were closing in on the truth. If any doubt remained about whether Jeanine Jaramillo had been the driver and possibly the only occupant of the Chevy Malibu, the car's computer data tossed it out. The weight sensors on the passenger seat indicated that no one had been sitting there at the time of the chase. Detectives had poured every effort into verifying Jeanine's story, yet they found not a single piece of evidence proving that Mark Lopez had been in the car, or even in Jeanine's life. The more they uncovered, the clearer it became. The so-called kidnapper might not exist at all, and could very well be a mere fabrication. Detectives decided to confront her about her story in the second round of questioning.
Now listen, I saw Mark, myself, and everything's blurry, okay? I see you breaking into this vehicle, and it was like a truck. I mean, I could barely see it.
So you saw that vehicle?
I saw a little bit of it. I could barely see. Okay, I had gasoline in my eyes.
How did you see the vehicle? Like, what were you doing? Where were you at when you saw this vehicle?
I'm moving around all over the car because he's all driving crazy. I'm all over.
If I recall correctly, you said you were on the floorboard. How did you see this vehicle?
Because I want to know what's going on. I want to get out of there. I'm moving around. I'm trying to figure out what to do. I'm going crazy, all right? I'm scared for my life. I want to get the hell out of there.
Around, you saw this vehicle.
Not really just moving because I want to. I'm moving because he's all over the road and I'm getting pushed around, thrown around in the car.
As absurd as her theory about a man named Mark was, her story about her abduction was even more unbelievable. But Jeanine was persistent in her efforts to be the victim.
I don't want to see him again, God. Please help them understand. Mark did so much wrong to me.
At this point, detectives decided to look into her past to check if she had any criminal history. And to their surprise, she was discovered with a very notorious and troublesome criminal history. They learned that the white Chevy Malibu that Jeanine had been driving was a car that she had stolen from Los Angeles 2 days before this tragic incident. Moreover, Jeanine was no stranger to the world of crime. Hers was a known name when it came to car theft, evading police, and other similar felonies.
Jaramillo's criminal history includes shoplifting, stolen cars, and a lot of lying, from giving fake names to fake stories to police.
The evidence suggested that most of the felonies committed by Jeanine were accounting for car theft and fleeing from police in a car chase. However, the most significant breakthrough was when cops found that Jeanine's past crime had been recorded on camera. In September 2021, a video surfaced from Grants neighborhood, New Mexico, Cibola County, showing Jeanine driving a stolen car. The footage showed Jeanine crashing the vehicle into a fence while she was notably trying to escape a police pursuit. There was no stopping it until it crashed into the wall. When the cops nabbed her, she told a similar story, claiming her boyfriend was the offender and that she was in the car without her consent.
Okay, so what happened?
Okay, my boyfriend kept me here.
Where's here?
Grants.
Uh-huh.
Grants. And for like 2 days, he didn't let me go. I don't know what the hell. He didn't give me no water. He didn't give me nothing. That's why when I came to this man's house here, I asked him for water. I was so dehydrated. I'm so dehydrated, sir. He just like kidnapped me and didn't let me do anything.
Okay. What's he wearing?
He's wearing a red shirt also with black jeans. They're like they hang off, you know, where they show their...
Where it shows his...
Yeah.
Where was he sitting in the car?
He was down on the ground more.
On the ground? What seat?
Kind of like down on the middle part, he was on the passenger side.
He was on the passenger side down?
So how could he be holding a knife to her neck, keeping you from stopping if he's down on the floorboard of the vehicle?
He held the knife in his hand, sir, but they didn't.
But how was he holding it to your neck?
And then he got up and he put it to my neck and he told me to.
Where at on your neck?
Over here. He told me that he was gonna kill me if I tried to stop again because I was trying to stop, sir. I was trying to stop and then he punched me right here and he was choking me. He was choking me. Most of the time he was choking me. It hurts me. I can't even...
He was choking you? While you were driving from us?
No. He punched in my stomach. He punched me a lot of times in my stomach and he told me not to stop because I was pushing the brake. I was trying to stop.
The statements she made in this video were quite senseless. However, her story was roughly similar to the latest except that she was on the floorboard this time and her boyfriend was driving the vehicle. Cops found her evil secret, after which she was sentenced to 18 months in prison. But weeks after her arrest, she was released on bail.
Both of these cases in Cibola County were dismissed with the option to refile the charges later.
We can't hold people accountable for stuff that they may or may not do in the future, you know, but if we nip it in the bud in the beginning, maybe we could save a life or two.
However, just a month after her previous attempt to fool the detectives, Janine was back at it. This time it was in Cibola County on October 8th, 2021. She stole an A-Line company's truck and sped off. Once again, the story remained the same.
Their bucket truck, short chase started, jumped on the interstate. She was able to elude the deputies. A couple minutes later, they found the bucket truck on the side of the interstate with her in close proximity.
Janine was caught lying once more, resulting in her arrest yet again. These events led the police to a chilling conclusion that Janine was a pathological liar and that the whole story of the abduction had been staged. Janine committed a serious felony that resulted in a heroic cop losing his life, along with an innocent man who was tragically caught in the situation while trying to save her from a fake kidnapping. Considering the gravity of this situation, the police decided to charge her with 2 counts of first-degree murder of Officer Robert Durian and Frank Lovato.
The white Chevy Malibu playing chicken with the lives of everybody on I-25. Light traffic, speed still at 90, are the last words that Officer Duran spoke less than 10 seconds before he comes head-on with a truck driven by Frank Lovato.
The entire court was in shock as the prosecutor dwelled on Janine's reckless and self-serving choices that had put so many lives in danger.
The dash camera and body-worn camera evidence will show that several officers became involved as the suspect vehicle dangerously moved throughout our city streets. Going the wrong way, U-turning whenever and wherever, running red lights, and all at crazy high speeds.
As per New Mexico laws, if any defendant, intentionally or unintentionally, kills a person at the commission or attempts to commit a felony, then the defendant is charged with first-degree murder. In Janine's case, she was accused of felony murder on 2 counts, along with false reporting, stolen property, and fleeing from law enforcement. However, getting justice for Robert and Frank was not an easy task. The protocol that was broken by Officer Robert repeatedly interfered with their way to justice.
After that, the officers, as many officers that were available, started responding in that direction because of the severity of that call.
The defense attorney took advantage of this angle and accused the officer of inciting an escape. According to Sergeant John DeBaca, assessing the grave situation and the information given regarding the report of possession of a knife with the kidnapper suggested potential harm to Jeanine. The urgency in the scenario made no option available for Officer Robert other than to chase the car.
There was limited information because this was a third-party caller who just said, hey, a woman is shouting, there's a guy with a knife in the car. Car takes off. As that's happening, she's shouting, call the police. We're talking about a circumstance where the ultimate threshold would be death. And what you have to understand in this circumstance is the death being the threshold is equal to not only everyone that is on the highway, but it is equal to the person who is potentially being kidnapped.
The female captive runs to Officer Norris. She's distraught. She's scared. She's frantic. Her arms in the air. She's screaming. He tried to kill me. He has a knife. He poured gasoline all over me. He has a gun. He beat my head. But now, she was safe. Officers believed they had just saved her life.
However, during the investigation, detectives found out that there was indeed a man in the car when the neighbor made a dispatch call. But the man was not Mark, as Jeanine claimed, but it was her real boyfriend, Jerry Chavez. When Jerry was brought into questioning, he clarified to the jury that on the day the pursuit occurred, he and Jeanine were caught in an argument, after which Jerry was forced to leave the car and walked away before the chase.
I didn't want to get out of the car because I didn't want to get stranded here in Santa Fe.
Okay.
She kept asking me to get out. I kept telling her no. And then she pulled up to some guy that was standing there and asked him to call the police.
The inconsistency in Jeanine's story was not the only thing that shook the jury. Her seemingly reckless behavior of stealing cars and summoning police pursuits on many occasions exhibited signs of psychopathy. Jeanine showed no signs of remorse while being held guilty for murders. Instead, her defense attorney, David Silva, argued that there were no signs that Jeanine was directly involved in the murder, and so all the claims against her remained baseless. However, after hearing Jeanine's defense statement in court, the jury would be shocked by the lengths someone might go in order to protect themselves.
I'm sorry. To the family, with all my heart. If I could take back that day, I would. I made bad choices. I was on drugs and I was drinking, but I also have my family that I'm hurting. Putting me away many years is not going to bring them back. God knows. I deserve a second chance, Your Honor, please. For my family and myself, I would never do that. I would never cause harm. I'm sorry.
Jeanine's statements after the gruesome crime committed by her only implied her apathetic and narcissistic behavior. As the evidence was collected in the court against her, the jury proceeded to read Jeanine's sentence. But when Jeanine couldn't convince the jury with her admirable acting skills, she decided to reveal her true colors while the jury read her sentence.
I'm not a murderer. I am not. I am going. I'm not a murderer.
Stop talking, please. Let my judge finish.
What did you say after you'd been found out? I'm sorry for my reckless driving, but I didn't crash. I didn't cause the crash between Officer Duran and Frank Lovato. What's that implication?
I was not in that crash.
After 5 days of evidence and testimony, the jury said you did.
Her destructive, self-centered behavior only substantiated the jury's verdict. On December 20th, 2024, Jeanine Jaramillo was sentenced to life imprisonment for first degree on 2 counts of murder, with the possibility of parole after 60 years.
The jury's foreperson then read off 5 other guilty verdicts for great bodily harm by vehicle, aggravated fleeing from a law enforcement officer, receiving or transferring a stolen car, making a false report, and reckless driving. Now, at a minimum, a guilty first-degree murder charge is 30 years. If you add all of Jaramillo's charges, the sentence is more than 60 years.
The families of Frank Lovato and Robert Duran breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing the verdict, Yet the weight of losing someone close could never truly be lifted. As the criminal session on Janine ended, the family members tried to put their heartfelt feelings into words.
On March 2nd, 2022, our lives were completely turned upside down by the reckless and selfish acts of Janine Jaramillo. That day, 2 great men lost their lives. Officer Robert Duran in the line of duty, and my father, Frank Lovato, a retired firefighter who was an innocent motorist on his way home. From that day forward, anything positive that has happened or will happen in our lives will be followed by sadness, grief, and heartbreak because my father isn't there.
He cared more for her life that day than she did. My brother died trying to save her life. Her sorry but not sorry letter, it was also very hurtful and upsetting to hear the details of her accounts when my brother gave the ultimate sacrifice. 2 beautiful lives were lost, 2 families that will never be the same.
Although Janine was not directly involved in the crime, her actions directly contributed to it. However, some may question if issuing a life sentence was justified. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below and follow us for more such stories.